Welcome back to Briggs on Books, our international talk show where we talk to authors from all over the world, mostly via Zoom, sometimes live in the studio like we're going to do in a minute. But the book we're going to talk about, or the movement we're going to talk about, is Civic Intelligence. Our guest is going to be here. I think he's just arrived. There he is. John Minkler, by the way, and you head up an organization called what?
The Civic Education Center.
Civic Education Center, yeah. And tell us about Civic Ed and what it is and why it's important.
Well, one of the fundamental challenges of public education is to prepare the next generation to be responsible citizens and to accept the responsibilities of citizenship, which includes not just voting and abiding by the laws, but really contributing to the nation and the community that we live in. That's been a fundamental part of public education, but in the last 20 years, it's been diminished in importance for various reasons. And there's now a movement to renew vigorous civic education, and the schools are looking for ways to do this, and my nonprofit, the Civic Education Center, is providing resources and guidance for schools and students to do civic education projects.
Now, you've written a book. Here's the cover, Civic Intelligence. Is that going to intended to be part of the curriculum? Is this educating teachers? What's this book about?
Well, I got frustrated trying to talk to teachers and administrators about why civic education is so important, and so I decided I spent 2 years doing research and drawing on my own experience of 50 years as to why civic education is so important right now and what it looks like. And I have lots of examples in the book, and it's intended to be a resource for educators and the people in the public who are just concerned about the fact that our society has seemed to have lost its vision.
I think a whole generation didn't have civics in school so much.
Well, I was part of the National Council of Social Studies. We had a task force in 1999, and we came up with a resolution with national civic ed leaders saying that civic education should be a priority every year, K through 12. Unfortunately, in 2000, we had a new policy in education called No Child Left Behind, and the idea was that if we could just get kids on grade level in reading and writing and math, that everything else would fall into place. And so civic ed was pulled largely from the curriculum, along with vocational training, along with the arts, and it turned out after 10 years that yes, the scores went up a little bit, but students started dropping out of school in large numbers, and they were saying school's boring. There's nothing in it that motivates them to want to participate. So starting about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there's been a real effort to bring civic education back into the schools.
Now, I was going to ask you, you answered it before I could get there, but what grades is it important? But every year.
It's really K through 12. Understanding how to make agreements. I've worked with kindergarten classes and up to 12th grade. Understanding how to make agreements and abide by the rules, and if they're not right, then how to have civil dialogue to talk about what needs to be changed and how they can do it. The democratic process, all of that, being part of a community, serving the community through projects, can be K through 12.
Yeah. Now, are they coming back? Are they back? Or are we still trying to get civics back in school?
That's a good question.
We have the hard questions here, John.
Okay, what I've discovered, and along with my research with experts in the country, the most effective way of is to engage students in solving real problems in their school and their community as a way of learning how to become a responsible citizen. So we bring students together, we ask them what their concerns are, we guide them through a process of once they identify an issue, they identify community partners. They talk about what could be done to solve that problem, and then they implement a solution to the problem. I've done it with kindergartners and I've done it with 12th graders. And students really enjoy the opportunity to identify a problem that they care about and then learn how to do research and find community partners and then implement a service project.
Yeah, I went through school in the 70s and the 60s, and we had things in school like Model UN, and of course we had student government, and then we did some outside. It seems like everything was outside the classroom that we were learning our civics. We had clubs, ecology club, and things like that, but it wasn't really that much in the classroom. Now, are you developing curriculums? Is somebody developing curriculums?
We have a curriculum. The Civic Ed Center has a curriculum for teachers who want to implement this process of guiding students through a civic engagement project. So we do have a comprehensive curriculum. The other thing that we introduce into this is the principles and civic values that our founders established in the creation of this country. Unfortunately, young people don't know what those principles are. They've read the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and they studied it in a textbook, but it's not real for them. So we have found ways of making that into a much more real understanding of those principles. As an example, one of the lessons is about the Great Seal of the United States. There are actually three primary documents we got from the founders. One is the Declaration, one is the Constitution, and the third one is the Great Seal that's on the dollar bill. Most teachers, let alone students, don't know what those words and symbols mean on the Great Seal.
Great Seal, yeah.
It wasn't put on the dollar bill until 1935 by President Roosevelt, who felt that the people ought to be able to see the Great Seal. On the Eagles side, the banner in the Eagle's beak has the national motto, E pluribus unum. That's the most powerful principle that the founders wanted us to live up to. And the idea is that we appreciate the diversity and we learn how to come together with common goals and a common commitment and become one. That idea of many into one is the biggest challenge the founders said. If this country's going to be successful, we don't teach that to kids, and we don't guide them through practicing that. That's we do teamwork, we do problem solving, we do all kinds of ways to learn how to guide a class to become one, and then to practice civic service as a way of learning the skills to be a responsible citizen.
By the way, you have an event coming up. Tell us about that. Is this the poster for it?
That's a teacher education program on September 25. If there are teachers or administrators in the Central Valley who are interested, this is co-sponsored by the Fresno Superintendent of Schools, Michelle Cantwell-Kofer, who will be giving a keynote. And this is going to be an opportunity to learn about this type of civic education where students are learning how to solve real problems.
This is for educators.
This is for educators.
And was there something coming up for?
Yeah, so there's an event for students
Maybe this is it here.
called the Youth Summit, the Fresno County Youth Summit. And this actually started, I was first hired at the county office by Pete Meas back in 1999. And one of the first things we did was organize what we call the Youth Service Council. and that included high school students from across the county. And every year we would have a weekend leadership retreat at Wonder Valley Ranch, and it was very, very successful. Students from all different schools, different backgrounds, would talk about what are the primary concerns of youth in the Central Valley right now, and what kinds of service projects would be most appropriate to address those issues. There was a picture with a bunch that one, with a bunch of students. Quick story, back in 2001, shortly after 9/11, my partner Jim Coyner and I were at Wonder Valley Ranch with a group of our Youth Service Council members, and we got a call from Pete Mias, the superintendent of schools, who said that district superintendents were very worried. If you remember, right after 9/11, there was a lot of insecurity, and we didn't know if there would be more attacks. We didn't know who the enemy was and where it was coming from, but there was a lot of anxiety in the high schools around the county. And Pete said he wanted us to facilitate a meeting of high school students at the convention center, and Mayor Autry made arrangements, and we had 750 students from across the county who came to the convention center for a full day, and my partner and I and our Youth Service Council facilitated conversations about what could students do in relation to this challenge to our country. And what they came up with was they wanted to affirm American civic values, and they knew that there were some acts of violence against people who appeared to be Middle Eastern, Punjabi with the hat, or with. They knew that there were incidents, and they didn't want that to happen in their high schools. Right. So the campaign was that these students were going to go back to their school and communicate to their peers, we don't want any discrimination against people who may look like they're Middle Eastern. They didn't have anything to do with it. They have their rights. Let's stand up for the rights this country is founded on. So at the end of that year, Pete told us that there were no incidents at any of the high schools of discrimination. Yeah. So that's just an example of the Youth Service Council and what we can do. Unfortunately, in 2010, because of No Child Left Behind and the districts were focused on raising test scores, there was a lack of support for the Youth Service Council. And Larry Powell, the current superintendent, said, I can't keep it going without district support. So we had to cancel the Youth Service Council in 2010. But then 5 years ago, my partner Steve Morris and I went to the superintendent, Jim Iovino, and said, look, it's time to bring this back. It started at the County Office of Ed. It works really well. Look at what's going on in our country right now. Young people don't have this understanding they need for how the government works and how to contribute. So he immediately said, absolutely, we brought it back. And so for the last 4 years, we've had youth summits at Wonder Valley Ranch.
That's good. It's back.
No charge. We got sponsorship from the County Office of Ed, the Clovis Veterans Memorial District is a sponsor, and others. If you want more information about it, you can go to our website. It's www.civicedcenter.org.
Yeah. We have the web address on the screen. I just want to also point out, here's the book cover again. Who should be getting this book? Who should be reading it?
Well, educators, teachers and administrators, and parents who are concerned that the schools don't seem to be providing enough education about how the government works and what the responsibilities are for being a citizen in this country, and what the founding principles are. So that would be the target audience.
for our viewers, get this book and give it to someone. Give it to a teacher or your kid's teacher, or buy 5 copies. Give them out to people who should know and who should be reading and observing all of this.
Here's a copy for you.
That's great. I love this. I'm kind of a nerd on this stuff, so I'll read this.
Okay.
I study the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the founding documents and the founding fathers and stuff. And civics has always been very important to me. Any last thoughts for our viewers? We've gone way past time. I could talk to you all day, John, but any last thoughts?
Well, I was hoping to give a couple examples of civic projects. We had a group out at Kings River High School, a continuation school, who were concerned about mental health problems, and they decided to create a club called Mentalica Mondays, and they brought a partner in, NAMI Fresno, came in and helped facilitate their club.
Isn't that an example of good civics? Because these kids decided this. They saw something in the community, mental health issues that maybe weren't being addressed properly, and they said, let's do something about it.
That's right. That's right. Another example, at Toronis Middle School, they had many fights, and the students told us they want to know what they can do to prevent fights. And so we brought in a community partner, Christina Casenario, who does peer mediation and restorative practice, who taught the students some skills, and then they created a mural with the steps of peer mediation going to a resolution in the center, and we painted a 25-foot mural at the school that the students use for resolving conflicts. There was another continuation school, Cambridge, that had a program called Seniors for Seniors, where they came in and talked to seniors at a retirement home about how to use the internet safely without having their identity stolen.
For seniors.
But they want to be able to communicate with their grandkids.
Yep.
And they want to use social media, but nobody was around to show them how to do it safely. So these high school seniors were helping the adult seniors to do that. Just some examples of projects. One more. There was I was hiking out at the nature trail at Lost Lake, and I saw the graffiti on the rocks was terrible. So I talked to a class at Kings River High School, and they decided they wanted to do something about it. And so the partners there, we worked with Ron Good, the chairman of the North Fork Mono Tribe, and we worked with the County Parks Department, and we came up with a project where the Parks Department provided some tools, and they were able to remove a lot of the graffiti. Ron was able to talk to the students about why this was a sacred place for the Native people, because there were grinding holes there. It used to be a meeting place when the salmon were running, 60-pound salmon, and they had a great feast, and now it was being defaced, and so he and the tribe were really grateful that these high school kids were willing to. I think there's a picture of it.
Yeah, that's great that they have can hear about from people like that. Tell me when I get the right picture there. That's it.
There
we
it
go.
is. Yeah.
The grinding holes and everything.
Yeah.
So
those are examples.
Hands-on civics.
Right.
I like that.
Right. They're learning to serve their community, but they're working as a team. So they're learning e pluribus unum,
Nice.
and they feel more like they belong to the community if they've done something to make a difference.
Yes.
Most kids feel lost, actually, when you talk to them, and they don't feel like they belong, and they're just struggling to get by.
Getting involved in something in the community is always such a great, powerful lesson, and they get a little ownership. The natural landscapes that were being graffitied, now those kids have ownership there.
That's right.
Forever.
Right.
John, we're way past time. I want you to come back. This is very important.
Okay.
I'd like to talk to you about this again
Sure.
and again. And get the book. Where can people order this book?
Online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Very good. And for our viewers, go get the book. Don't buy one copy, buy several copies. And stick around, because we'll be right back with another author right after this.